Local people, important issues. CBS 10 WILM's weekly focus on the Lower Cape Fear region. This is Byline Wilmington with your host, Don Ansell.
Well, thanks for tuning in. We're continuing our special hour-long series of candidate interviews to help you decide how to spend your vote. Today we're covering two state Senate races. First, the Redwine-Rabun race for the seat formerly held by R.C. Soules, who, by the way, was the longest-serving state senator in North Carolina history, and later in the program, Democrat Jim Lutzy and Republican Tom Goolsbee will be here. But first, Democrat David Redwine, who will face off with Republican Bill Rabun for the District 8 Senate seat, is with us. David, thanks for coming in.
Glad to be here.
Good to see you. You served in the State House for nearly 20 years, and it's no secret there's a strong anti-incumbent sentiment in this election cycle. How do you think that's going to, or is that impacting your campaign?
I really don't think so. I haven't been in the General Assembly since 2002, and that's a long time. 8 years in politics is a lifetime. And so I think most people understand that, actually I think it's an asset, because people who encouraged me to run said, you know, you're in a unique position, you've had some experience, but you've been out for a long time, and I've been listening to people talk and trying to decide what they want us to do, and so I think I've got some new ideas to bring back to Raleigh as well.
Where do you think your campaign stands now, as far as the election?
Well, I think we're doing real well. We're in the last days.
Have you done any polling?
Yes, and we're ahead with those pollings, and we have done very, very well. We've got a good ground game started, and it's a turnout deal now toward the end of the election, so we need to make sure our people go to vote. Both
the State House and Senate are controlled by Democrats, and there's a Democratic governor. So how well do you think the state's being run?
Well, I think it's, you know, given the circumstances that we're in, not only here in this state, but all over the country and the world for that matter, I think those folks have done a pretty good job with the situation they've got. And you know, obviously, if I were there, I might have made some different decisions.
Well, what needs fixing? Does anything need fixing?
Well, I think first of all, you got to look at the state budget. I mean, we're looking at a shortfall.
19 billion.
Yeah, somewhere along in there. But we're looking at a shortfall potentially. Although I did hear the other day that the corporate collections are up, the profits are up, withholding is up, and sales tax is up, and there may be actually a surplus at the end of this year on this budget year of $300 million. Which State Office of Budget Management is projecting, but that's just a little glimmer. But
something that you might fix.
Well, I think in the budget we need to look at all the programs we've got and make sure the ones that are working we continue to do. The ones that are not working and not performing or not doing the job we intended, we need to cut them out and save the money and use it to offset the
something
deficit.
Specific.
Well, for instance. One of the things that, and I haven't been there in a while, so I don't know all the programs are still there, but, you know, inmate health care, we could do some changes there and save about $12 million.
You're talking about eliminating it?
No, you can't eliminate it,
right.
but you can tweak it. You can tweak it better with the Medicaid offsets with the federal government, the state government, and save, you know, $12, $13 million. That's just one example. I'm sure there are a lot of programs that are in the budget that we could look at. And
I went online and looked at the budget. It's quite a document to digest.
Oh, yes.
You know, depending on party affiliation, North Carolina is either one of the best places for business or one of the worst places for a business, depending on if you're a Democrat or Republican. What do you think?
Well, actually, I think we're pretty good. I mean, all the magazines, business magazines, have rated us pretty highly. And in fact, a lot of people haven't said this, but if you go to the Department of Labor Statistics, we're fourth in the nation in the last 2 years in creating jobs in the country. North Carolina is, which is not the greatest.
Where did that
the Department of Labor Statistics, USDL.
By state?
Yes, by state.
Shows that we were the fourth.
We were the fourth in the whole country in creating jobs this in the last 2 years, which a lot of people don't talk about. Now, are we there yet? Have we created enough jobs? If you don't have a job, obviously, we haven't done what we need to do. But we're making a little progress, I think.
You're on the State Turnpike Authority, which is responsible for overseeing projects like the proposed Skyway Superbridge. What's your position on that?
Well, I heard the mayor of Leland on your program not too long ago
Yeah.
say I was for it. I've never said that. I think it's got some serious problems. I don't think, one, we can afford it. I don't think it's even on the Turnpike's immediate radar. There are other projects way ahead of this one. I think that probably what you'll see the Turnpike Authority do is look at some other alternatives other than the Big Skyway, for instance.
So you're not are you a proponent?
No, I'm not a proponent
not.
of it, because I think we need to do some other things first. I think we need to finish I-140 and do that project first, and then see where we are. But the bottom line is, Don, you know, we're not going to get $50 million a year from the state to offset the revenue needs of that bridge.
$50 million annual
shortfall based on the turnpike, based on revenues versus cost of the building of the thing. I don't think we're going to get that. So, you know, while it's a great project to talk about and maybe sometime in the future might be a possibility, right now I think we're just...
and yet, all the local governing bodies on both sides of the river, except Leland, including Democrats and Republicans on all those boards, are strongly supporting the project. So how would you respond to their lobbying efforts to get it built if you're elected?
Well, show me the money. If the traffic...
So you would resist, you would tell them, if there's not the money to do this, I'm not going to support it?
Well, if we don't have it, we don't have it. My priorities when I go to Raleigh are going to be creating jobs and education and other things. Right now, if we had the money, maybe that's a great project to look at. But if the traffic and revenue studies show that the money coming in from the toll receipts will not retire the debt, and you've got to pick up $50 million from the state to make that happen, it just is not going to work in the near future unless the economy does a blooming explosion turnaround than what we expect.
The state Republican Party is spending quite a lot on an anti-Redwine direct mail campaign. Let's talk about a couple of the issues that are raised in that direct mail campaign. You vote. Some of the language says that you voted to increase legislative pensions by 50%.
Well, it was a bill that back in the 90s, I don't remember all the details of it, but generally what we used to do was legislators got salary increases based upon what state employees got. If we increased state employee salaries, we do the same for legislators.
So it wasn't just legislators. If you voted for something, it was a state employee.
It was other people. But remember, that was legislators haven't had an increase since 1995. I was there for many years and did not vote for a pay increase. So, you know,
it didn't say pay. Maybe it's hooked in, but it said pension.
We haven't had it. Well, the legislature hasn't had any of that either. But that's old news. I mean, you're going back to the 90s when times were different. I have said in my campaign that I won't take my legislative salary. I'll donate it back to the state because of these tough economic times. I will not accept it. My opponent hasn't done that. I'm willing to. I know that's a little bit, but the symbolic gesture, I think, to my voters is, listen, I want to send that money back to the state and let us use it for higher priorities.
Another issue on that direct mail by the Republican Party is that as chief budget writer for the State House, you were instrumental in raising the state gas tax, sales tax, and income tax. Your comments?
Well, over 20 years, the state has changed and needs of the state have changed, and sometimes you have to do that to provide the services to the people. The transportation issue was the Highway Trust Fund in 1989 now. This goes back a long time, and that money was used to 4-lane Highway 17. I would ask, I would think that would be a pretty popular vote. It was back then because we got some roads out of that bill.
You know, taxes, everybody's talking about taxes. Should we need tax breaks. Do you think the public today thinks that we should never again raise any taxes?
Well, I think in this economic environment, it's not a good idea. People are hurting for a lot of different reasons, and I think paying more taxes is a burden on them. I don't support raising taxes anytime in this session. It's just not going to work. It's the wrong time to be talking about that. We need to be looking at our state spending and trying to reorganize and set new priorities. This is a time that the state needs to reset its priorities about what is important and how we deliver those services. And I don't believe anybody's going to talk about raising taxes.
Some recent headlines suggested that homeowners groups, HOAs they're called, may be stepping over the line of personal property rights and might need more oversight and regulation. That would be a state legislative thing. Would you support that?
Well, I don't know all the details. That's kind of a blanket question, but you know, personal property rights are very important, and we want to protect those. And
homeowners associations, though, and some say infringe on personal property rights. Would you agree with that?
No, I would be in favor of protecting the personal property rights, whatever we're doing there, whatever we're talking about, in the end result.
So you might vote to limit some HOA power. Insert.
Well, here again, you'd have to give me some specifics,
Okay.
Don. I just can't say I would
Okay.
do that or wouldn't do that unless you tell me exactly what you want, what you're saying the homeowner association can't do or can do.
We're almost out of time. I want to get some quick
Sure.
reaction to some issues like, do you support or oppose involuntary annexation?
Involuntary?
Yeah, do you support or oppose involuntary?
I oppose it.
You oppose involuntary.
I would like to see us
So you would vote for a bill that
change the annexation laws, yes.
you
I
would. How about the Megaport and Southport? You support or oppose that?
I oppose it for, I'm all for jobs, but here again, we don't have the money to do it, and the NRC, I think, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, is going to come down and tell us we probably
Offshore
can't do it.
drilling?
I support that.
You do?
But I think most of that, most of that's natural gas, which doesn't have the problem. But if we have things in place that what kind of benefits the money, and we've got things in place in case there's a disaster out there.
We're out of time. Oh, let me ask you one other one. Quick, we have about 20 seconds. State and federal funding for beach renourishment.
Oh, I support that. Always have, and have introduced bills in the past to do that.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Stay with us. In our next segment, Mr. Redwine's opponent, Republican Bill Rabin, will be joining us, and then in our last half hour, we'll be talking to Republican Tom Goolsbee and Democrat Jim Lucey. Stay with us.